A very good afternoon and welcome to Conversation Oasis. This is a weekly free-flowing discussion program held here at the Kasviskeidas restaurant in the centre of Turku. My name is David Mawby and I'm chairing the discussion today, but I'm joined, as usual, by my fellow presenter, Nana Blomqvist.
Hello.
And also by Jalal, who is the owner here of the restaurant. And also we are joined by two guests today. And I'd like our first guest from Ethiopia to introduce himself.
My name is Kakil.
And you are studying for your master's here, aren't you?
Yes, I'm studying embedded computing in Turku University.
Great, welcome to the program. And we also have someone who's a bit of a regular these days, and that is...
my name is Rasmus Hofström, and I'm from this region, so it's quite easy to me to attend this, and I find this program very interesting, so I like to attend.
That's great, because we're going to throw the first subject at you after that wonderful little piece of feedback. You have just come back from Brazil, where I believe that you were talking with people there, or at a meeting, to deal with your particular thing, which is social awareness in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, basically it's this project about inspiring young people who are still not in the working life before they start their careers, to start and inspire them about a new way of making business. It's called social entrepreneurship. And to maybe summarize it shortly, because not everyone is familiar with this, it's sort of halfway between normal enterprise that works for profit for the owners, and then an NGO that works as a non-profit and has another more idealistic cause to work for. And social entrepreneurship is kind of a way to take the good parts out of both and try to make something like that happen. So
you seem to be going against the tide of neoliberalistic economics, which says that, of course, it's the dollar which is the bottom line.
Yeah, this is kind of, I would say, a way for people working in the grassroots movements and so on. They can kind of work within these rules that this neoliberalistic agenda has come up with. So people has to work as a business. But at the point when you're supposed to divide the dividends among the owners, and when you have something profitable, you need to put the profit in your own pocket. So if you have a social entrepreneurship, you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me, what did you discuss in Brazil with your colleagues?
Lots of things. I would say most of the time we were doing quite specific discussions about our youth exchange that's taking place next month, and we're about to have 6 youngsters from all of these different European countries come together and work with the topic of social entrepreneurship. In Europe this will be in Italy, and in Latin America they have a similar gathering with Latin American countries, and the way is to sort of first try to define social entrepreneurship with all of the participants, and after that the next step is try to work out sort of a business plan with social entrepreneurship, and just to try to learn more about social entrepreneurship through these making these company ideas and trying to make business plans for them, and trying to market them, and just as an imagination game. But
fair enough. Let's try and take this away from being an imagination game to reality. You're based here in Turku. What success have you had in convincing young entrepreneurs in Turku that this is the way they should go?
I have to say I don't have any concrete examples yet from a person who have gotten inspired and has gotten as far as to start their own social entrepreneurship. but I think the potential is quite huge, and there is a lot of interest when I talk with other students and young people. They want to do something that not only provides for them and their family, but for the whole local society they live in. And
what kind of difficulties you have to motivate people to get really active?
I have to say, in Finland, compared to Latin America, it's a really big problem, because we had a working society for about 100 years now, and it has had very separate platforms, if you will, for businesses and for NGOs, and these have worked pretty well separately so far. But the thing that I have realized, and a lot of my friends have realized, that there isn't any sustainability in the way of doing business that we're doing it today. So we need another model that we can work with that is more sustainable.
You're talking about Finland.
Yeah. In Finland, I think the problem is that because we haven't really had any models, you either have a company that produces products or services and sell them and make the profit, and then on the other hand you have the NGOs who rely on the help from others, like maybe a company pays them sponsorship or something.
Social entrepreneurship is not a limited field of entrepreneurship. I mean, business-wise, like what they kind of do. Like it could be a production company or like something.
Yeah, in a way it isn't limited, but it's not allowed to have a company that creates a lot of destruction for society.
Right.
For example, McDonald's can never be a social entrepreneurship because of all the problems that
certain principles that they have to fulfill.
Yeah.
So what's the major if we consider the structure of the business, what's the major difference between a corporation or cooperative, what is it called in English? Andelslag in Swedish.
And corporate law, I guess.
No.
It's like a cooperative,
No.
basically.
Cooperate, like
Corporation.
no. This business form that is not. Now I don't have the vocabulary in English. Like there is different business structures.
Yeah.
One is a cooperative.
Yes.
And
one is a cooperative. One is a limited liability company. I wish someone would tell me what this is in Finnish. I can get it straight away.
Yeah.
Osuuskunta, yeah. Cooperative. A cooperative. Osuuskunta is cooperative.
Yeah, and then we have the one that is more common.
Osakeyhtiö, which is limited liability company.
Okay, so that's the English term for that.
Toiminimi.
No, but that's different.
Toiminimi,
yeah,
no,
that's a different, and that's when you're personally
private entrepreneur.
Yeah, and that's when you're personally responsible for the debts and stuff. But so what's the major difference between a social entrepreneurship structure kind of and a cooperative? Or
there isn't really any. They aren't excluding one another. It's just you need to follow these basic principles. I don't know them by heart now. I could have maybe brought a note with me to explain them, but the basic idea is that you can have any type of structure you like, but more often than not, it will have a more horizontal power structure. Like in a normal company, you will have bosses that are
pyramid.
They will tell people how to do.
So cooperatives would be closer, kind of, to the power structure.
Yeah, but it's also there's no specific rule about this because you can have one strong leader that makes most of the decisions. Also in a social entrepreneurship. Yeah. But then the basic idea is that the profit has to either go for the well of the society, a local society, or then it can be used to further develop this business and maybe branch out, but the basic idea of the business has to bring more good to the society.
But the good or the principles, how did you come up with these principles? Who decide for, or how did you choose?
I think the oldest example of social entrepreneurship is from Bangladesh. It's a guy called Yunus something. I have to check the sources.
We
but
take your
it's
word for it. We take your word for
But
it.
I wonder. But what I wonder a bit is there like needed kind of a new corporate entity, like
Absolutely.
legally,
Yeah.
that would be defined by law, because like these cooperatives and what was the
And limited and ordinary companies.
Yeah,
Just say
ordinary
ordinary
companies.
Yes, yes.
they have certain laws that they have to follow in order to. But this sounds like this requires a new legal entity. Kind
There
of.
could be, in my opinion, it could be a whole nother way to classify a company because
This sounds a little bit
because
like that
now
too.
at this moment they have to work with the same rules as any company. You can get a certificate from Suomalaisen työn liitto.
Yeah, with the Finnish work union, yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
that's it basically. You don't get any tax benefits
Yeah.
or anything.
And anyway, they have to work according to market forces anyway.
Yeah.
They're not going to get round that, because that is regrettably the basic economic ethos at the moment.
Yeah, that's why we're currently, if you have a social entrepreneurship, you kind of have to work in a local level, so you create the local impact with the local community, and then people you can market it locally a lot easier. For
Right.
example, if you have Kirjakahvila in Turku, which is a social entrepreneurship, they
It's a
It's a cooperative. It's a cooperative, yes.
so
Just do.
As indeed is Sokos, would you believe, as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
it's not really
It's not
similar.
comparable.
No, it's not. No, I
But
take
this
a
is
point.
it's a lot easier
So is-
to work sustainably in a small local business that has
This- This needs the government support, because often the laws, the regularities are made for the big companies.
Mhm.
Yeah, nowadays especially.
and if the big companies let really this idea spread around, so if your goal is just to make it more global, and in the end you need governments to support the idea, how do you engage the political side of it?
At the moment, I guess the only thing we can do is hope that maybe there will be a younger.
Hope will not bring us anywhere.
Well, we need to do this groundwork.
Well, we need to live in hope, at least, despite everything that goes on around us in this crazy world. I'd like to bring our friend from Ethiopia in on this. Have you any thoughts about this? Does this sound absolutely strange to you, or is it something that you maybe have experienced back in your own country?
Not so much. I think I haven't heard about social entrepreneurship, but I have heard about. I have learned about entrepreneurship from school. I have actually participated in a PE course, which is business practice enterprise,
Right.
and we were doing about like establishing a virtual company. And in this company, the whole idea is that students to learn, like in group, how they can create their own company, and how they can, for example, how they can negotiate with a bank. We have done that actually. Like, even though it's a virtual company, it was like real negotiation with the bank. So I like the idea that we went to the bank, and we have done our business plan, and we have showed that actually it was about employment company. We wanted to have a company called employment company, which is called PE Zone. And for this company, we went to the bank with our business plan. So it was a real negotiation with bank managers. So we were able to convince them that our virtual company can work. So they kind of said that they have accepted our business plan, and they have approved the loan, even though there was no any loan to take. I mean,
That's a really bad side of the business. You need always bank, and once you get to the bank, then you're a prisoner of the bank. So you got to come with the alternative for the bank.
And
Interest and a lot of fees. A lot
But now
of
you're
big
talk-
fees
but-
nowadays
but you're
for the
talk-
services.
Yeah, fees and interest.
Yeah, interest
The
and-
interest
yeah.
is the prison.
That's the
guard.
prisoner, yeah, and also that's the prison. But I often wonder what happened to the so-called cooperative banks as well. One name in Finnish comes to mind, which I won't mention, but there used to be cooperative banks who had a more generous lending policy towards small businesses, but they seem to have passed away. Jalal, you're an entrepreneur yourself. How does this strike you? We've been down this road before on this program, but how, listening to this again, do you feel, you're not yourself some kind of social entrepreneur?
No, but I don't know how this will go on as their agenda or plan, but I think whatever we do, we have to come with a political alternative, because always we need politicians to support good idea, and we know politicians are so engaged with their own system and their own I can call it political culture. Once you get there, before that you're idealistic person, you want to do some good changes, but once you get there, then it's all different. You become corrupted. I'm sorry to say that most of them are corrupted, and they just think about themselves. They don't give a damn about citizens. So,
but I have to say, like, if we think this negatively, then what's the point of doing anything or even having an entrepreneurship if we're all doing it that way?
There will be a good point if you somehow get the politicians engaged with the plan. Then it's different, of course.
You give us a wonderful bridge to our the next thing I thought we could have a brief chat about here on Conversation Oasis, our weekly free-flow discussion program, which comes to you on Radio Robin Hood from the Kasviskeidas restaurant here in Turku. Currently, there's a discussion going about who should be the mayor of Turku. Now, I know that the mayor is not an elected person as he or she is in, say, for instance, Tampere, but to my mind, looking at the debate such as it is as to who should be the mayor of Turku, it seems to me like one great big quango. Now let me just define what a quango is. A quango is an appointment which is made to reward politicians for favours done in the past. And the list of people that are on this list to be selected as the mayor of Turku have all been bosses in various government sponsored departments through most of their careers. One or two may have sat in parliament and had a very uncolourful career. I won't mention any names, but what does the mayor go? I want to ask people here, what on earth does the mayor of Turku actually do? Nana, any idea?
I have no idea. Really, I don't know what the mayor does.
I know he reads the Christmas salutation.
Yeah, that's what we know. But like, I don't know what the use is. I haven't been actually, even if I'm supposed to be a politician myself. I haven't actually followed the debate about the mayor very closely. But even if I followed a little, I can't actually picture what a mayor exactly what his job is. Or
that's why it's called a quango, because it's an appointment where I think the incumbent can sit on his or her posterior and do absolutely nothing, just smile at babies and smile at
babies.
Though I can't imagine at least one of them smiling at anything.
The only clear thing for me is that every organization has a budget. And he has authority on the budget. Of course, there are other people and there are plans, but still he has a big influence how to spend this city budget. I think there should be I don't care what he does, but more transparency.
Yeah.
Within spending the budget of the city.
Yeah, of course, like always.
Well, always, yes.
But one thing that strikes me like with this mayor thing is that like I have a very pragmatic view on politics. Like politics is responsibility, like more about responsibility than power in my eyes.
Yeah.
But I really don't see what the field of responsibilities the mayor should have that couldn't be. This is what I can't picture.
In other words, is the mayor democratically accountable to the people of this city? I think that should be the guiding principle.
Yeah,
shouldn't
so
it?
that's what I have a problem with that.
I think the idea of a mayor must be very strange in Ethiopia. Or is it?
I don't think we have city mayors.
You,
No,
really?
no.
What do you have?
I think Ethiopia is like based on regions. Like we have regions, and one region is it could be like there may be many cities in the region. So basically, the region administrator is you can call it maybe a mayor, but it's not only for particularly like for one city. It could be like for about
Okay.
4
So
cities.
what's this person's job?
I think that his job is administering.
So more like a coordinator, maybe?
Yeah, you can. I think coordinator. you
Yeah,
can
so
call
that
it, yes.
implementing
Implements
decisions that
the
has been
laws,
made.
yes, because
Right,
we
right.
have the central government and we have the regional government. So the leaders in the regional government, you can call them maybe. I cannot call them mayors, but their job is like to pass all the laws from the central government into the regional
Right.
government.
I can only sort of take this down to a comical level because I remember when I was at school, our imperialistic teachers taught us that the mayor of London was a man who thought the streets of the city were made of gold and he would make his fortune. And this was the story of Dick Whittington, who'd come from the countryside. And when he saw London, he said, "Oh no, I don't want to have anything to do with it." He turned round, but somebody said to him, "Oh, Dick Whittington, turn round, the streets are made of gold." And he became the Lord Mayor of London. The Lord Mayor of London, actually, I can tell you, is a man who puts on fancy dress maybe once or twice a year, as do lots of people in Britain in various clubs on a Saturday night. But this guy gets paid for it.
But, I think in order also, city mayor is not alone. In order to have a good job by city mayor, we should have a good city council.
Yes.
And I remember Nana said when you were there once in city council.
I followed the live stream.
Yeah, and
of
you
the
said
meeting.
that you didn't understand how it works and what the
Well, it was
is going
very
on.
inefficient, and it was very a very inefficient and polarized climate. And just the meeting tradition was very strange to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What made it strange?
How to pinpoint it? Even like the language used in there, like the kind of, I mean, not the Finnish. I mean, Finnish is fine, but just how things were like expressed. You would have to be introduced into the language of this meeting room before even understanding what's going on in there.
Yeah.
Which I really don't, and there were some unnecessary kind of formalities, I think, which didn't fill any function. It didn't look like it filled any function. And right now I would have to think about it before I would give any suggestions for improvements, but it was strange to me.
Like it wasn't focused on the city issues. It was like distracted by all the other details or all
Not exactly
the
so
personal opinion or.
Not exactly like that either, but like there was a lot of votings, and actually it was the initiatives were made by my own party, the Left Wing Alliance. It was about whether or not to reconstruct a certain wooden house that had been burned down in its original kind of way, or a totally new plan. And the Left Wing Alliance was on the side of reconstructing it according to how it looked before, like a wooden something. But the more right wing, or actually all the other parties, were for something new. And
Including the Greens.
yeah, I think so.
Surprise, surprise.
But I have to say I don't remember, this was so long, this was the first city council meeting after the election, so it was some time ago, so I can't remember exactly. But they were voting, and they put new issues on the table regarding the same issue over and over again, so that kind of they were voting not about the same issue, but different aspects of the same issue over and over again, because they didn't want to give up the fight for what would become of this.
What actually happened to the House in the end?
The left-wing alliance lost the votes, basically. So obviously, if it's a decision, if those votings resulted in a decision actually, which it should basically do, I guess then that means that now they would be free now to build something new and change the environment, so to say, there, so that it would look different in the future than it did before it burned down.
So it seems to me there is no good teamwork in there. So they are not thinking of the city, but they are thinking mostly on their own party.
Based on that meeting, I would say like no teamwork, whatever. I mean, in the sense that, exactly that was the feeling I got. There's no interest of actually looking at the city. Like, what do the city need? It's more like what certain interests where they're pulling in widely different directions, and no one seemed to be really interested. I mean, of course, the left-wing alliance party is interested of the city, but then like to piece by piece like this, try to fight for its death.
So this is what we have in politics nowadays. Also, they don't care about citizens. They care about their own party.
Yeah, but look at how Turku looks. It's ugly like a horse ass, you know. So like, sorry.
You haven't been to Tampere lately.
Yeah, I haven't. But like seriously,
or Helsinki for that matter.
Look at how it looks here. I mean, you see the result from those city council meetings. You can see it. You know, it's this town is, you know, it's not made for people. Seriously.
Who is it made for then?
I don't know.
Or what is it made for?
Cars.
Yeah, but it seems to me that's my growing impression after 18 months. Yeah.
That's one thing, cars. But like just how the parks are made, it's like ridiculous. I went to Siberia some time ago now, and I was like, in the middle of Siberia, they have like nice parks with pine trees and stuff, and I'm like, how the hell can we be so not?
And they don't know really how to handle this, even with parking places. There is this company that gives ticket to people, and they are not even considered like legal. So if you don't pay their ticket, so they cannot really force you to pay. So how is that possible? I don't understand that.
And there's like initiatives to build parking spaces all over the town, all the time. I get the feeling that Turku will be nothing but a parking space at some point. So this is.
Brings back to mind an old Joni Mitchell song. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot, but that's the old hippie in me coming out again. Yes, I'd like to give the final word on this to our guests from Ethiopia. How does this criticism strike you?
It's quite. I somehow, you know, like for example, like Turku is like I think, in my opinion, it's like good city. so because if you compare, it's like relative to my country, it's a disaster. I mean how the city is handled, and how. I mean I don't have much to complain about Turku because I don't know so much, but somehow I have been, for example, in Italy. I have been also in some countries in Europe. So I didn't find Turku, but that's how I feel about Turku.
Okay, thank you very much. And what I can tell our listeners is that you're going to be back here in our next edition of the programme, and we're going to talk about your home country of Ethiopia.
Yes.
You'll be very welcome then. And that's just about all we've got time for this particular edition of the programme. Thanks to all our guests for their insights on city politics, on social entrepreneurship, and thanks to you, and thanks also to our listeners. This is David Mawby, hoping that you're going to join us at these same times next week for another edition of Conversation Oasis.